Before you buy a Haworth chair, you need to watch this video. Haworth is often touted as one of the few ergonomic chair brands that can stand up against the likes of Herman Miller and Steelcase. But is this actually the case, or are you just better off sticking with one of those other brands? The Soji is Haworth's entry-level ergonomic chair. Of the 4 chairs we'll look at today, the Soji has the most basic build and functionality. Just to be clear, I say entry-level, but this is Haworth, so entry-level is still going to run you between $500 and $700. It's not cheap, but one thing I will say that really works in the Soji's favor is that it doesn't have any glaring issues that I see like most chairs in this price range. The Soji doesn't have flashy parts or a unique design that catches your eye, but it's a solid chair. The components are good, and the chair feels well put together. You also get a nice adjustment package that includes seat height and depth adjustment, 4-way arms, and upright tilt lock. You can also add height adjustable lumbar support and forward tilt. I would recommend the adjustable lumbar. I think it feels nice, and the adjustment range is quite generous. While I don't like forward tilt in general, the upgrade is only $25, so if you think you'll use it, it isn't a huge investment to throw on there. All of the adjustments combined with the overall dimensions of the chair make this a solid option to fit most people. It's also a comfortable chair. The seat is firm, but in a good way. The cushion is supportive and doesn't bottom out. I can use this seat for 8 hours a day without a problem. I also like the backrest. The mesh isn't as stretchy as some higher-end chairs, but Haworth found the right tension to still make the more fabric-like mesh feel supportive. Overall, I think the Soji is an amazing option, and if you're looking for a chair in that $500 to $700 price range, this should definitely be on your radar. If you're looking to fast-track your search for the most comfortable office chair, check out our ergonomic chair cheat sheet down in the description. The Very is the next chair in the Haworth lineup, and this is considered a step up from the Soji. The Very has a higher end, more polished look than the Soji, and I actually think this is one of the nicer looking chairs on the market for under that $1,000 mark. The Very also has a more advanced technology package when it comes to adjustments when looking at the Soji. Instead of the more basic synchro tilt mech, you get a mechanism with a deeper recline and 2 different recline modes. One mode allows you to come all the way forward, and one moves the most forward position a little bit further back, putting you in a forced recline. You also have the option to lock the chair in that semi-reclined position. While I really like how deep the recline is on the Very as compared to the Soji, I'm not a fan of the 3 recline options that they give you. I don't see the purpose of the semi-reclined range since the standard mode offers the same thing, but better. And I really wish there was an upright lock like the Soji. While the mechanism is an upgrade to the Soji on paper, I think the only advantage it has is that it's just deeper when you go all the way back. The other major difference when jumping up to the Very from the Soji is that the lumbar edition has independent depth adjustment control. This is an adjustment we see on the more expensive Zodi chair. I like this adjustment a lot and think it's worth the price to add it on. I would also consider the arms to be a slight upgrade just because I like the shape of the pads better and they're a little bit softer than the Soji's. The major problem that I have with the Very is the mesh on the backrest. The mesh is similar to the Soji's. It's more fabricy than stretchy, but instead of being pulled really tight like the Soji, it's loose and saggy. This forces me to sink way into the back, and I can feel the side and top of the frame of the backrest. For me, this ruins the entire chair. This puts the Very in a weird spot because I don't think that the adjustment upgrades are worth the extra price as compared to the Soji, and I find the Soji to be more comfortable overall. The Zodi is Haworth's original flagship ergonomic chair and is the chair you should be considering if you like the Soji but want something higher end. For me, this is as close to an S tier chair as you can get, but it does have one thing that holds it back to the A tier for me. Let's start with the positives first. I think the Zodi is a massive upgrade to the Very chair. It looks nicer, feels more solid, and most importantly, it's more comfortable. For me, the Zodi sits in my top 5 most comfortable office chairs, and I've tested hundreds of these things. The seat is firm, but like the Soji, the foam is good quality, doesn't bottom out, and is supportive for 8 to 12 hours a day. I also love the backrest. The frame is flexible, and the mesh has the perfect amount of tension and elasticity to keep you supported without letting you sink in like the Very, and also being softer than the Soji. I would highly recommend the lumbar upgrade. It's the same system as the Very, with a massive height adjustment range, as well as independent depth adjustment. The arms on the Zodi are top tier. They have 4-way adjustment, and they all have really good ranges. The pads have good softness to them, and I like that they don't have a pronounced edge. One option that makes the Zodi unique is its dual posture option. This edition is about $100, but it gives you an entirely new way to use the chair. This option gives you a taller cylinder and a forward tilt mode that lets you use the chair in a perched position with a standing desk. This really helps to change your posture and positioning throughout the day. The main downside for me with the Zodi also applies to that mechanism and tilt. The Zodi comes in two different tilt modes. One is very forward, and one starts more reclined, kind of like the Very. This is much different than any other chair because it doesn't have just a standard flat seated position, so it can be tough for some people to find that middle ground between the forward and the reclined modes. I make it work by keeping the chair in a forward position and then loosening the tension to give me a more typical recline range. This may be a deal breaker for some, but I consider this an A-tier chair and one of the best chairs on the planet for that $1,000 mark. The Zodi upholstered is the same chair as the standard Zodi from the seat down, with the only difference being the backrest. Instead of an open mesh, the back is fully upholstered. While this may seem like a slight difference, to me, it changes the chair entirely and takes my top 5 A-tier chair into territory where I would prefer not to use it. The backrest on the upholstered Zodi is hard, has almost no flexibility, and the lumbar support feels non-existent to me. The lack of lumbar, combined with a completely rigid back, makes this chair a no-go. While I like the styling and it may fit better in certain home office vibes, I think this is a considerable downgrade from the standard Zodi when we're considering the pure comfort of the chair. The Fern has become Haworth's new flagship ergonomic chair and one of 3 chairs I've ever reviewed that's received the coveted S-tier rating. This S-tier rating is very dependent on chair configuration though, so let's walk through it. The Fern is going to be the highest end, nicest looking chair in the Haworth lineup. It also has the most advanced technology with its 4-layer backrest design. It was meant to replicate a fern plant, hence the name. This design really makes the chair stand out because it gives you this suspended feeling in the back while you're getting an unreal amount of flexibility. This is without question at the top of the list of most comfortable backrests I've ever used, right there with the Steelcase Leap. One downside with the Fern's back is that you cannot get lumbar adjustment that allows you to change the amount of pressure being applied like the Zodi. For me, it makes the lumbar addition too pronounced, so I prefer the Fern without the lumbar add-on. The lumbar system is good though. It's like an airbag, so it's not hard or pokey, and it does have a massive height range. I just prefer less support than it provides. I would highly recommend the digital knit upholstery on the backrest. It gives the back an extra layer of softness and really helps to elevate the comfort. Something I would not recommend is the headrest. It is really hard, only has height adjustment, and just feels like it's in the way. I also feel like it takes away from the flexibility in the back. The arms on the Fern are great. The pads are soft and large, and they come with a massive adjustment range. These are very similar to the Leap arms in terms of adjustability and are certainly the best armrests in the Haworth ergonomic lineup. The recline on the Fern is what seals the deal for me as an S-tier chair. Haworth went with a more standard synchro tilt mech on the Fern as compared to the unique mechs on the Very and Zodi. You get a massive recline range with 5 different tilt limiter positions, and aside from Herman Miller chairs, this is one of the best reclines I've ever experienced. I think Haworth has put together one of the strongest lineups in ergonomic seating, but if they don't seem right for you, check out our ergonomic chair cheat sheet in the description.